Hi, everyone. Sorry. Before I start, just wanted to ask if we have support engineers, cloud engineers, DevOps engineers here. No. Yeah, I guess they're all gone. So today we are talking about building smart support systems using Amazon Lex specifically. So as we have the cloud environment becoming very complicated and very complex now, you need to build systems, cloud systems that can counteract and help you in your daily operations using the cloud. And specifically with this one, we are looking at using Amazon Lex, which is more like a machine learning and a fully managed AI Amazon service, right? So let's look at what Amazon Lex is. So it's a fully managed AI service for building conversation interfaces using voice and text. So you just don't go in, run, build, bring up a resource, but then you have like an interactive front end where users can go in and then have a chat. So more like a chatbot, right? But this is normally built and then trained with data you would want it to respond with. So you would want to provide the users and then the end users basically with specific informations when they ask it, right? So you would have it built that way. And it takes in voice and text. It's not just text only. It uses like natural language understanding. So this basically makes it understand the text that is being inputted. So it doesn't really limit it to keywords. So some of these systems actually just look for specific keywords in there, and then that is what it searches its source data or its knowledge base from, right? But then this uses the NLU and machine learning, and it's only you only pay for what you use, right? So with Lex, you pay 0.004 for speech request. So it does the whole request response, and that is how it gets calculated for like pricing. So it's 0.004 for speech, and then 0.00075 for text. I mean, text is much common, so that's like much cheaper. Using how do you call it? Speech means you are utilizing a different resource also built into it. That is more like the automatic speech recognition, right? So you have it, these are the features. You have it using the natural language understanding, which makes it make meaning out of what you put in. Then the automatic speech recognition. So you just don't talk into it for it to just pick keywords. It understands what you're saying and then responds accordingly. Then we look at it having multi-channel deployment. The multi-channel deployment doesn't necessarily just limit it to its interface or its experience in AWS, but then you can integrate it with other third-party services, so probably Slack, Jira, something. So if you are looking at having like teams where maybe issues come up, it gets raised in there, it can automatically raise like a Jira ticket, maybe HubSpot ticket, something. You can, because you have like, you can have like a full backend processing, right? Where you can probably also use other AWS services, like maybe having like a full Lambda function running where you can have it in there. It can call direct APIs, or once you can do anything programmatically, right? You can use it in there. You can have like a function running fully. So this also uses, takes advantage of those deployments, and it's serverless. So it scales as and when, depending on the requests coming through. You don't have to manage any infrastructure. You don't have to go in to probably scale. You don't have to manage any of those things. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a fully managed AWS service, right? So this scales automatically, handles your load, like takes care of everything fully. And if I mean, if it can be integrated with third-party services, definitely can be integrated with AWS services, right? So here you can have it integrated like almost all AWS services. lambdas, cloud formation, like you mentioned, right? So you can have it create resources. Probably you just go in, I want to create like EC2, depending on how you've built it, you can have it built with specific responses. So you probably want to create an EC2. It would ask you which type of EC2, what size do you want, everything. It will just call, maybe if you have like a predetermined cloud formation template running, it will just run it, create your resources, and then that's it. So I think this service in itself looks at streamlining operations generally. Because once you have this, you basically reduce time in doing some of these manual tasks, right? You don't have to manually go in to do a lot of things. You can integrate this with CloudWatch, where you would have like your metrics coming directly to the bot. You can ask it what's your instance is running on. It can tell you it's CPU, it's memory, it's everything. Once you've built it, and then you have this integrated services in there. Now, let's look at it specifically for cloud support. Why would you be looking at this? Because, I mean, Amazon Lex is a machine learning AWS service, right? So why would you be looking at it for cloud support? Basically, like what I mentioned, it helps with like services, operations. It will streamline everything, makes you reduce manual tasks. It will basically, and cost-wise, it's cheaper as compared to having like having full teams running on call and everything. If you would have like a service like this running, you can have anyone go in anytime, any day to put in what they want to do, and it can be done. It takes out like the human interface as at that point. But I'm not saying you should take out humans completely. I mean, that's not what I'm saying. So it just helps. It runs 24/7. You have that availability all throughout. Then cost efficiency. So like I mentioned, if you are doing it this way, you have it access anytime and everything. That eliminates manual tasks and everything, because you get to automate all of these things. You don't have to have people go in to do these things. Everything gets optimized because of its machine learning feature. Once you go in to interact with it, it tells you like what service, and depending on how you've built it. So it doesn't just come automatically, right? You build it, you build a bot, right? So depending on how you build the bot, it interacts accordingly. So if you've built a bot to recommend services per what you want it to do, it would interact accordingly, recommend a type of instance you want to run, depending on maybe the workload you are looking at or how long you are looking at running it. It would actually recommend that to you, which will help you also like save cost. I mean, not as like a team organizationally, because I mean, once you're saving cost with your services you are running, it benefits the organization. Then faster resolution times, because it takes away the human interaction. You can just go in, okay, I want this done, I want this done, I want this done. It gets it done automatically. It, it calls APIs, direct APIs. It has services integrated. So this doesn't need someone now coming in or anything. Once you probably have a form of authentication in there, right? If you have authentication in there and it authenticates and it knows this is a valid user, because this user is the one raising this request, I can create these resources. It will go ahead to create it. You probably don't need any form of approval or anything once you have that form of authentication in there. So then as at that point, you'd have all your resources or whatever you want to do in time, which would then definitely reduce resolution times. Then scalability. So with what I mentioned, it's running the serverless architecture, it scales by itself. With any type of workload, any type of request coming in, anything, it can be as huge as whatever it is, it handles it. And you only get charged for the requests coming in. So it's directly correlated, right? The more requests you have coming in means it would need to scale to accommodate it, right? So if you're paying for the request, if it's the request response type for payments, if you're paying for request, meaning if it scales accordingly, you'll be paying more for your request. You get it? Because it wouldn't scale higher if there's no need for it. Once it's scaling means there's a need for it to scale, meaning you have more requests coming in. So there's that feature which also helps cloud teams. So you have like maybe your support teams where they probably don't have to even think of managing infrastructure or anything. They can just leave it to run, it scales by itself, and everything is fine. Then there's the enhanced user experience. Building the bots gives you that interface. So you go in there, you interact with it. It's just like going in to have like the chatbots discussion, just more like you go into ChatGPT, this, you ask it, it answers you and everything. So that also gives like that enhanced user experience. Now there are some real world cloud support examples I put in there. So we have real-time resource monitoring. So this can be achieved if you probably have, let's say, look at, I don't know if you guys know CloudWatch, but CloudWatch is like also an AWS service, right? You can integrate this into this and then get your metrics from whichever resource or whatever it says you are running. You get everything in there and directly ask the your bot what it is, and it gives you like direct responses. You don't have to go in to log in, probably check dashboards or anything. Just the interaction with the bot gives you all the metrics you want. So you can get all that real time, right? So you get to monitor all your resources and everything real time. Then there's the resource deployment. So you can also use this to deploy resources, like creating EC2 instances, provisioning an RDS database, something, anything. Once you want to get it deployed, you can have it done if you have built your bot that way, right? So like I mentioned, it's not automatic that you just create a bot and it automatically handles these things. So you're probably creating a bot where you probably need it for resource creation, let's say EC2, right? And you have a backend processing cloud formation template, which you've specified the resources and everything it needs to create. As part of creating a resource, it specifies like the security groups, the VPC, puts in the CIDR blocks and everything, right? It creates everything directly for you. So once you go into the bot, you interact with it, you probably ask it, you are creating this resource. If you have recommendation services also applied to it, this can also recommend a type of resource you should provision depending on the need for the resource you want to provision, right? So it helps with like resource deployment. Then let's look up 10 minutes, okay. Permission and access queries. With cloud support teams, you probably have these type of requests coming in frequently. Someone needs access to this. Someone needs to be added to this group. Someone needs to access this bucket. Someone needs to do this, right? Once these things come in, if you have one built this way, you probably don't even have to go into that to do these things manually anymore. So again, depending on how you've built the bots, probably the only thing you need to pass in will be the unique username, which then creates it. Then you probably add in a group it should be added to. Maybe you might have a developers group or maybe engineering leads group or something, right? And you have permissions applied accordingly. You wouldn't want permissions just flying out there, right? We all understand the least privileges when it comes to permissions. Now, looking at it that way, if you have groups that have like permissions attached, means you are looking at having users put into specific groups. You get it? Now, if a request comes for a user to be given a specific permission, you can just pass in user name, because then it's going to be a new user. So you probably pass in the unique username and the group the user should be added to. And then that also gets done. So I think all this gets achieved when you understand what you as an individual or the team wants to achieve, right? So if you understand what you're looking at achieving as a team, you understand maybe the tags that come in frequently, you probably want to eliminate them and have like them automated. The tags that come in like from time to time, you don't really have to always manually go in and do all these things. You can automate all these processes in, and then once you have that interaction with it, it just passes in directly and then gets it done for you. Then instance start or stop automation. Definitely, if we can deploy instances, we can start and stop it, right? So this is probably just like a minimum or like a very minimal real world instance, because you can probably do much more with it. But then if you can create the resources, you can actually create it. You can probably delete it. You can start and stop it. Definitely. You can have this automated. You can put it in certain processes where you check, and if CPU reaches a particular metric or something, you just want to reboot your instance or something, depending on how you people do whatever it is in your organization or what the need for it, right? So it's a need to basis. Then the cost of optimization metrics. So with this, I know once you have a service like the anomaly, the cost anomaly in there, you can also apply that to it, which will also recommend how to go about the provisioning of your resources. So this will also help you optimize your cost when it comes to looking at using like other resources and other services within like AWS. Now, we are just looking at some basic principles when building the bots, right? And with this, start small, then expand. That more is that's targeted towards the way you probably run with building products. So like the way you have MVPs, right? If you're building a product, you don't just jump in with all like the crazy requirements and all the complex things. You are probably looking at it. Maybe you have your first MVP, you get that done, that's working. You probably move to next, maybe newer features and everything. Because sometimes it can also get complex and complicated depending on what you want to achieve, right? So you start small, then you expand gradually. So if you start probably with the first, you're able to achieve what you needed to within that first, let's say MVP, then you probably expand it gradually. And then leveraging analytics for continuous improvement. So like I mentioned, having something like CloudWatch in there for you to like get the metrics in so that you can actually know how it's performing, for you to see how to optimize it, certain changes you need to do and everything. So this is more like putting it in like a testing phase where you go accordingly. Once you get like the analytics for it, how it's performing and everything, you can tweak it, make changes depending on what you want to achieve, right? Then prioritize security. I mean, security is everyone's priority. If it's not, it should be a priority. So prioritizing security also comes in where you probably, like I mentioned, having like maybe an authentication bit of it. You can't just have anyone just use the bots and do whatever they want to, because within the, let's say, cloud formation or whatever it is you'll be using in the backend to process the request and everything that comes in, maybe you might have allowed permissions once the person meets it. So if you go in and you don't prioritize security and you have anyone just coming in to just do whatever, it means anyone can basically just do whatever. So maybe there should be some form of baseline security, probably authentication, just for you to authenticate this is a user that has the permission to do this, right? And then finally, you keep the humans in the loop, because there are certain things that will probably go beyond that needs to be escalated, right? Where you need actual humans coming in now to. So this also doesn't eliminate the fact that it doesn't eliminate humans out of the process completely. So you're not just saying, yeah, we are taking all the humans out, we don't need you anymore, we have this running for us. No, it would break at a point. You need people managing it. You need people working on it. You need someone tweaking it. You need it to be escalated when issues go beyond itself, right? So as at that point, you need to keep like the humans in the loop. And maybe people in that field, maybe you have like the support engineers, maybe cloud engineers who probably think, yeah, this will probably be taking their jobs or something. But I mean, AI, ML, and all these things are here to stay. It's either you adapt to it, you make it empower you, build on it, get yourself used to it, right? And then see how you can make yourself better and then make your processes better. I think like that's the best way. So I think with the last one, we just have to keep like the humans in the loop. Then I think we're supposed to have like a short demo, but looking at the time, I don't think that would be very possible.